So this event I'll be presenting on behalf of the Ghana side. So our presentation will be focused mainly on the registry, So we look at the study site description, what was happening before Sparkle 1 and then Sparkle 2 for our site. So for Sparkle 2, our study sites are now 2. So that is in the 2 largest cities in Ghana, the 2 largest universities, and the 2 largest tertiary or teaching hospitals. That is from Kumasi, KNUST, Konfanoche, who were the people on Sparkle 1, and our new kids on the block from Accra, the University of Ghana, with the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. So what infrastructure do we have at site? So we have computers with UPS at each of the sites. There's broadband internet. And at the Kumasi site, you also have a backup of a mobile router on another service provider, just as a backup to any eventualities on our main broadband internet lines. There are also tablets for mobile data collection, and there's conferencing equipment with video for us to also communicate and also do some of our trainings. And recently, a server was donated to us from SADC to also support us in setting up our Red Cap. What are the expertise at our site? So currently, we can boast that we have enough experience in designing and management of Red Cap projects. And subsequent to the Sparkle project, we have now rolled on developing registries for pediatric cardiology, for endocrine, and also for the entire pediatric emergency unit. We have also designed a registry for them, which they are also using in collecting data. Then in data analysis, we can work on Stata, R, and recently, 2 members of our team are studying using Python for data science. So that is the expertise currently at the site. So in Sparkle 1, the objective was mainly for the database side was to form a centralized electronic patient-consented database that will facilitate registration and follow-up of patients. So that was what we were looking at when we broke it down into these ones for data management area. So our registry was supposed to monitor and document patients who are recruited, and then we follow them up. And also we wanted to generate some data on what are the outcomes, what are the things, the complications they come up with and report to the hospital with, and also use that registry to also enhance research, education, policy, and public health programs. So for Sparkle 2, we are expanding a little bit, and now we are going to do a cohort of 6,000 from the initial 3,000 of Sparkle 1, and now try to look at the determinants. So there will be more detailed investigations in this one to look at their manifestations, and now from Sparkle 1, implement some of the things we found in Sparkle 1 to try to address and surmount all the challenges that we found. That is to make sure that in Ghana, centers of excellence in research and care in sickle cell can be created to support sickle cell disease management and research. Our journey. So the first day, first baby, first heel prick in Ghana for newborn screening, February 13th, 1995, through the efforts of Prof. Ohene Frimpong, supported by the NIH grant. So that sort of started it. Now, what do we have? So since 1995 till now, there are about 18 treatment centers located in 16 administrative regions of the country. And of notice that most of the 18 are located in the big cities and a few surrounding ones. Then for newborn screening, It's been a national policy since 2011, but the pace of scale up is very slow. And we know that now ASH is trying to support us to quicken that scale up. So for now, only about 3% of newborns are screened annually. So 3% of newborns are screened annually. And when they are found to be positive or with sickle cell disease, they are put on penicillin prophylaxis and comprehensive care. Specifically, sickle cell disease treatment is not covered by our national health insurance system, but now there's work to include hydroxyurea and its labs on the national health insurance this year. Before Sparkle at CAT, all the data from the screening was entered into a FileMaker Pro database, so it involved those who were screened and their results, and those who were positive were moved into a connected attendance for their clinic visit and management. Of note is that this database was just for the newborn screening project, but later on, an Excel sheet was created for the new non-newborn screened patients. This was because the first database in FileMaker Pro had to link from screening to clinic attendance. And since these ones were not screened at birth, a different system had to be used for recording their clinic attendance. So in Sparkle 1, to be able to merge those two, we decided on moving to REDCap. So with the REDCap, we now had to harmonize what was happening in the newborn screening. So a different set of data was collected for them, separate from the non-newborn screening. And we also had to do a little bit of modification to the medical charts used in the clinic to be able to contain what we wanted to do for Sparkle 1, and then also incorporating the Sparkle-based data elements as they were being agreed on. How did we collect our data? So within Sparkle 1, the 4-year period, what we were targeting at doing was doing 3,000. And our recruitment strategy included outpatient visits. So as they come for their outpatient clinics, we consent and recruit them onto the Sparkle registry. At a point, we realized that this was not flowing as quickly as we wanted. So we did some radio announcements and did a 2-day mass registration of our patients. And that helped us a lot. And we also did some home visits to those who were called, could not come, and we went to their homes to visit them. We collected information by reviewing their patient records and also interviewing them on some of them. How did we manage our data? So initially in the hospital, there was a paper-based CRF, and that was picked after a clinic and then entered onto REDCap. Then gradually in 2020, it was moved, 2019, it was moved to an electronic health record. So we had a little bit of challenge then having to have them put our paper-based CRF in an electronic form so that clinicians would collect the required information. Once that information is entered, quality checks are also done by the REDCap data quality model. And we had to report weekly data summaries on what number of people had been recruited and what was the analysis, looking basically at their phenotypes. And also that was also an avenue to help us to clean the data weekly as we try to do our presentation summary. And we also did monthly backup on server on an external hard disk. And in addition, the identified information was also synced with Sparkle SADC via an API. How far did we do in Sparkle 1? So for the target 3,000, we were able to go over by about 100. And if you realize, most of our patients, a substantial number, were recruited through our home visit, going to the patients in their homes to consent them and also encourage them to come back to the clinic. What was the flow of recruitment? So when we started, a huge jump of 183. Then when more information started going out in June, when most people, school students were home, the number jumped to 189, the highest over the period. Then in somewhere 2018, December, we realized that it was not working, numbers were dropping. So we initiated the mass enrollment. That brought the number to 143. Then it dropped again in a month. And then we now settled on doing home visits, which sort of kept, which jumped us up a little bit, but it still kept on reducing due to the frequencies of our home visits, which were not as frequent as those who would come voluntarily to the clinic. What was the demographic? So most of our patients are males and are within the pediatric age, because most of our clinic in Konfanoche for SPACO 1 is pediatric. So in SPACO 2, we are looking at doing more adults. What were their diagnoses? So most of them were SS, as is well known, and a few, quite a substantial actually, were SC. Then we also did some analysis on the follow-up. So in general, for the period of SPACO 1, we had about 1,999 person years of follow-up for the patient, with SS patients providing quite a large chunk of that. But in the SS patients, the top diagnoses were painful events and severe anemia. That's about at 17.0 per 100 person and 3.9 per 100 person. In SC, you realize that it's still the pain event, but the second is avascular necrosis. So you realize that because the SC provided a fewer person years of follow-up, their events seem to be higher. The SS are more likely, obviously, to come to the clinic. What were the other significant things we found? For CVA, which is a major problem, it was about 1.5 person years for SS and 0.4. And then for acute chest syndrome, 0.9 in SS, 0.6 in SC. What lessons did we learn? So the lessons we learned in SPACO 1 were that there is a need to explore and implement different modes of enrollment. Patients would always want to choose what is good for them. To be able to get them, we need to reach out to them in their communities. Home visits, radio announcements seem to be the deal which worked for us in SPACO 1. In SPACO 2, as we are expanding to an additional large site with a large adult population, most of the recruitment will be hospital-based. We'll be exploring radio announcement and also trying to speak to them during their patient support group meetings to be able to get them to come. From SPACO 1, follow-ups were not compulsory, so they were at home. When they wanted to come, then they would come. But for SPACO 2, we are scheduling and informing patients that as part of being involved in the registry, they will need to make at least 2 visits, which will be scheduled every 6 months for them to come. And then we are also trying to accommodate the additional site customs and culture, which seem to be a little different from what we are doing in SPACO 1. So these are some of the key research. So in SPACO 1, there's a paper in the works on hospitalizations, and our fellows are working on interventions for HUUs, pulmonary function in sickle cell disease, case control between sickle cell disease patients and other patients, and also determining the cost and availability of penicillin prophylaxis for sickle cell disease, prophylaxis against pneumococcal infections. Then we are looking a little more technical into their blood, into their levels of iron store and hemolysis scavenger proteins and kidney function, and also nasopharyngeal carriage of strep pneumo in these patients. Also, because we have a pediatric population transiting to adults now, we are also looking at their transition readiness and also assessing the health-related quality of life of the adolescent in our hospital. So acknowledgement is SPACO 1 and 2, staff of the Sickle Cell Clinic, the Sickle Cell Association, that is our patient support group, and also the Sickle Cell Foundation of Ghana, and SPACO happen, SADC, and NIH for the funding. Thank you very much.